Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Joe Daddy's Garage. It is Monday, February 9th, 2026. And yes, the weather has improved, thankfully. We've had our share of cold weather. I know we've talked about it, and I complain about cold weather, but honestly, I can't complain long because the cold weather doesn't last long here in Georgia. But when it's here, I don't like it. I'll just say it. But it is improving. I know over the last couple days, we've had cold mornings, and then it picks up and gets much nicer in the afternoon. Currently, it's 59 degrees here in Georgia. No complaints. The high today was 68, and so it's looking like tomorrow is 70, Wednesday is 63, Thursday 63. So we're right at, well, low of 36 on Thursday, but we're right in the middle of that transition. Hopefully, we get that Indian summer type thing or spring where you feel like, oh, it's here, and then it hits you again. So anyway, I hope you all are doing well. I've been doing some little finished stuff on the Fangled Fastback, and as you know, I mentioned last week, I am headed to San Diego on Wednesday, early Wednesday morning, and I'll be gone for a few days and spending some time out there with my buddy who is a Mac Tools salesman, and they do a tool show in different parts of the country every year, and this year it happens to be in San Diego. So the plan is to get out there, spend a few days with him, do the Mac Tools show. I don't know if we'll be doing anything else or not, or just hanging out at the resort. And then on Saturday, I'm going to meet up with Ed Cucciarella. He lives in California. He is north of San Diego, apparently, and he plans to drive his Ranchero down to pick me up on Saturday, and we're going to go to a local car show. So I think that's pretty cool. Get to hang out with Ed, check out his stuff, see some cars at the car show, and who knows, what else we'll do in that time period, because I think I fly back Sunday. That I did some research on that. I thought it was Saturday, but I'm flying back Sunday. So anyway, I'm going to hang out with Ed, and see, the tool show thing is oriented towards Mac tools, and I've gone to one of these before, and I tried to make some video there. No. They don't want me making any video of that show, and I get it. They're doing promotional things for the dealers to get their supplies for the year, and they don't want any information getting out that's not related to the actual dealers and stuff like that. And even though I told them I would sign a waiver or whatever and not talk about pricing or anything like that, they wouldn't let me do it. So I doubt that I'm going to film any of that at this time around. I won't even try. Well, I might take some cameras with me, but I don't think I'll try to do much. So anyway, that's the plan for this coming week. And there's a few other things that I'll talk about that's going on around here. That's, in the garage and stuff like that. So anyway, if you're new to my live stream, I encourage you to be involved. I do this Monday nights at 7, and I've been doing this for several years, to be honest. And I generally, we talk about cars from 55 to about 1980-ish, and they're, problems we may have or ideas that want to be talked about, or somebody may have a question about automotive repair work on a body or something. So if you have a question, I encourage you to be part of the show. And normally I can help out with answers. If not, over on the chat box there, I've got a great group of people that show up every week, and I appreciate all of them for being here. So I'll say that hopefully you saw the last video that I did with the Fangled Fastback and the problems that I'm still dealing with or have dealt with. And I realize, as I've talked about this before, you've got aftermarket parts, fitting aftermarket parts, and there's always a conflict. There's always a struggle, but I try to find ways to overcome all that. And in the last video, I actually talked with Sal from TCI, who is the vice president of the company, and we walked through some of the problems that I was having, and they said they were taking notes of what I was, my complaints and my issues, and they were going to look at process improvement, let's say, so that they don't have this problem pop up again, at least with the caliper deal, because that should never have happened. And they agree that should not even be possible what I ended up with. So they did send me, in fact, today, not that it's a big deal, they sent me 2 new brake 90-degree elbows, to help out with that. But anyway, I hope you saw the video. So let's see who's here tonight, and we'll get this party started, so to speak. And first in is Rick Stevenson. Greetings to everyone from Thermal, California. Is that the name of a town? Thermal? Or is it just really warm there? Let me know if that's a real name. I see it's capitalized, so maybe it is. And I'm going to get some coffee on that to get this rolling. Welcome, Rick. TJ, howdy everyone from East Dublin, Georgia, where every day is a holiday and every meal is a feast, and I try not to miss too many. I agree. Don't miss a meal. Glad you're here. Terry Keithley, good evening, everyone. Let's give Barry a thumbs up and like button for a great show. Thank you kindly, Terry and Betty and the cats. Thank you, Terry, and I hope Betty is doing well. I hope so. Vincent, greetings all from a frigid New Hampshire. I like those Mexican Bloxberry, especially with a stock 4-inch bore. Good score. Yes, and that's something I'm gonna talk about that as we progress through this. But yeah, it was a good score. I'm happy I found that thing. George Crackle, good evening, Barry and the gang from Southeast Michigan. Too cold to do anything in the shop. Going a little stir crazy. I can tell you this. I go stir crazy almost daily. I have to be out of the house. I don't like being in the house. I've talked about it before. I even go for walks. Like if I can't get something done in a garage, regardless, I go for a walk every day for an hour, and it's 3 miles. And because I don't like being in the garage, a house. I don't. Either I'm in the garage or I'm outside, or I'm even out doing stuff in the woods and stuff, because I'd rather not be in the house. Ed Cucciarella, hello all. Hello, Ed. I'm looking forward to seeing that Ranchero and going for a ride in it. I think it'll be cool. Jerry is checking in. Howdy, Barry. Howdy, y'all. From warm Texas. I love, living, not loving. I love living in a place that is 80 in February. Robert, not so much. Have a good chat. Thank you, Jerry. And Robert checking in. Evening all. Warm here, or very warm here, and lots of pollen. Yeah, pollen's coming. Yeah, we get hit hard with the pine pollen. And I've actually, it's funny, I've taken some pictures. I'm not going to post them here. I've taken pictures of pollen that's been in a puddle out in front, and the wind has blown it into a pattern. And I've posted about it on my own page, saying this is pollen art. But some of it looks really cool, and I guarantee you, if I had those printed and framed, people would be buying them. They would be buying that stuff. I just don't have time. Jerry's Garage Money Pit. Good evening to all from Middle Tennessee, where we had our first 72-degree day. Thumbs up for Barry. Thank you, Jerry. 72. That's nice. That's nice. I'll go with that. Nandu. Hi, Barry and everyone. Hope you're all doing well. Thank you, Nandu. And glad you're here. Hope it's better in, I want to say North Carolina, I think. So hope the weather's better or warmer there. Rick Gain, needed my Mustang to run in the garage to warm it up to unfreeze water pipes yesterday. At least it came in handy. Everybody hit the thumbs up, hit the like and thumbs up. Well, thank you, Rick. And I'm glad you're still here, because that's scary sounding, running the car inside. But you got to do what you got to do, I guess. So at least it served that purpose. Troy Justin, coastal Georgia, reporting in where the temperature is getting warmer. Next month, the yellow pollen arrives. Yes, it does. That's what I was just talking about. Ooh, we get nailed with that pine pollen. The bowler hat guy, David. Hello, all. Good evening, Barry. Good evening, sir. Hope all is well. Robert said it was too warm to have the shop doors open today. Oh, yeah. I came close to opening the doors, but not quite yet. I could have. I did have the side door open. The problem I have when I have the doors open, although I love having the doors open, I get birds that come in here, and then they get stuck. They fly up into the trusses, and then I'm fighting to get these birds out of there. So that's part of the problem I have with the doors being open. But I do love having them open. Gerhard, good evening, Barry and gang, from Canada, where snow and cold persist. I'm glad you're having it. You can keep it. Troy Justin, the Crunchy Cobra videos help me get my front torque boxes put in place. Thank you, Barry. Well, you're welcome. That's good to have. Good to know. Gig'em Garage, good evening, Barry. Kevin Barth here from Dallas. 80 degrees today. Yeah, and it's only going to get better, so to speak. Welcome, Kevin. Let's see. Dave Condell, good evening. No break in the weather here yet. Yeah, up in New Jersey. Yeah, probably not for a little while, but it's improving here, and that matters more to me than where you're at. Enjoy it while it's there. Just kidding. Stay warm. W.S. Gideon, lots of Texas folks in here. Fort Worth, myself. Welcome, Gideon. Dave Tyson, good evening all. Good evening, Dave. Richard Vogel, good evening, Barry, from 23-degree Long Island. We're having a heat wave. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that sounds really nice. No thanks. Gerhard, where did the Joe Daddy Garage name come from? You know, I've talked about this before, and that's okay. You can ask. That's good you ask. If you look at the video I have on my channel, my introduction video that I made like years ago, back whenever the walls didn't even have paneling on it or anything. Anyway, my daughter's name is Joe, or a variation of Joe. And so when I was trying to come up with a name, I had seen a truck somewhere that said, Yo Daddy's Garage. And I thought that was funny. And then I was thinking, well, I don't want to do that because it's already kind of established, the Yo Daddy's Garage. And that's, something sounds Southern, right? So I was like, what can I put there? And then I decided, Joe Daddy's Garage. So basically it's after my daughter's name. And it's just a play on words for something to come up with. But it rings a bell. People recognize it. And I think it's good. I've thought about changing it before, but it'll probably never get changed. Good question, though. CJ Hoyt, good evening, all. I've seen you posted to someone on Facebook about the rear seat panel barricades wall. Is that for fire? Yes. So there was a question. Thank you for that. There was a question posted on a Facebook page about the panel that goes across. I put one in jade. You put it behind the back seat, and the idea is it acts as a fire protection sort of thing. So, as we all know, the cars, if you take the back seat out, you can look right into the trunk. And normally that's not a big deal. It's not. But there have been occasions where people have gotten rear-ended and the gas tank ruptures and gas works its way forward through the car because of just a back seat that's there that's not even, it may pop loose, right? And so I don't say it's mandatory. Anything that I put together that will accept a panel like that, I'll probably put it in. Now, one of the advantages also was works as a noise reduction. And what I did on Jade, I put that panel in place and I screwed it into the existing framework. And then I took the kill mat, or Dynamat kill mat, and I put it on that panel. And that actually helps quiet it down, keep some of the noise down. So it gets a couple advantages there. It gives you a panel to put kill mat on and potentially to stop gas if you're maybe in an accident. Other than that, that's probably about the only advantage that I could come up with. But it does make sense when you really want to think about it. But yeah, not mandatory, but I like the option, so go for it. Mr. Mikey, having a great deal of difficulty with the rear axle seals on my 67 coupe. They have been glued in, wondering if there's a solvent to help release you're talking about the regular seals, not the sealed bearings. That's interesting. I don't solvent. I mean, let me think about this a minute. Assuming you're still in the car, that's a good question. Let's go from there. So, assuming the housing is still in the car, right? But you're pulling the axles out to replace seals. It's hard to say what the material is, but there's probably a few options you could come up with. And I know I'm assuming you're pulling out the center chunk, draining out all the fluid, cleaning it all out. First thought, pretty simple, is to take a little handheld butane, torch, little map gas, just heat the thing up, weaken the glue. Don't worry about the solvent so much, but just put some heat in there, right? And a lot of times that works. You should have some sort of a slide, like maybe a slide hammer. I've talked about this before too. I have I'll go grab it. I have a slide hammer that I use for such things as that. Let me grab it. Okay, so this is a common thing used at Delta, actually. So a pair of ice grips with a threaded rod on the end of it and a weight, right? So then you take some sort of angle piece, a piece of scrap metal, bend a tab on it. So you got a hook, right? Clamp that in there, get behind the seal, and hit it with the slide hammer. That's another way to loosen things up. So you all need one of these. If you don't have one, make one. You could use all thread. This is actually just a piece of flat or round stock that's been threads cut onto the end of it, and then just a thread cut into the other end and a nut put on it. And then just a weight. You come up with some sort of weight. So pretty easy to make one of those. So that's an idea too. The solvent, you could do that, but you'd have to seal it up. You'd have to create a way to pocket the solvent so it stays on there, right? I would probably try the heat and see if that can't break it loose, and then a hook of some sort. I know I have my version of a slide hammer, but you may be able to come up with something like that. So hopefully that helps. I guess the alternative, trying to picture all that, how it is assembled. Yeah, that's the only idea I can come up with right now. So good question. Julian, finally we will be above freezing. Chance of additional snow Thursday. Still too cold to get any machining done. Well, yeah, you definitely want to have good temperatures for that purpose. So sorry to hear about this extra snow. Don't need that. So Rick says Thermal, California is a real name of the town. That's interesting. And it's in Riverside County. That's interesting. There's some weird names across the country, we all know. Michael Pagliarini, evening all. It's only Monday and it's been a week. Yeah. Jiggy, late, but I'm here, still extracting my knee parts from old chassis. They say good looking welds are strong welds, but my booger welds are proving to be an equal PETA to remove. Yeah, I get it. I get it. But I'm glad you're going through the process of getting things straightened out. When we have to get together again and see how things are going. Rick says, unfortunately, a bit too far to visit with you in San Diego. Okay. Yeah. Let's see. Robert, heating up the seal will work, but it will stink really bad, just like the other day when I was welding on the rear axle. Gear oil is so much worse than when heated up during welding. That is true. That is true. Michael says the seals probably have gray or black RTV on the outer perimeter. Helps with out of round housing. Is a flex seal puller. Is a, wait a minute. Oh, axle seal puller on a slide hammer. Don't use kid gloves. Treat it like a Ford. Okay. I guess he's saying use a axle seal puller on a slide hammer. There you go. Yeah. So there you go, Mr. Mikey. There's a couple answers for you. Travis Holtman, one of my top patrons. Good evening, all. Good evening, sir. Glad you're here. Hope all is well. Out in Utah, right? Utah. So I talked, briefly about the stuff that I'm doing on Fangled, and I posted on Patreon, I know, but I'm also looking at what I may end up doing with the transmission cross member. I talked about it before, that cross member sitting right there. The idea of whether or not to use the TCI as a basis for a weld-on bracket, because that bar is right there. And as I've talked about with a lot of the stuff that I do, and I've had people comment about it, how I think ahead, like engineering-wise or repair-wise, those sorts of things. And I always try to do that. And I have to consider what it's going to take something apart. It's easy to put something together and weld everything up and say, okay, I'm done. But the reality is, it needs to be undone, one way or another, for the potential of a system failure. So if the transmission needs work or whatever, you have to be able to take stuff out. So you have to allow for that in one form or another. And building in a restriction may not be a good answer. So I have to think further ahead. And that's where I'm kind of leaning towards this cross member a little bit more. I'm still on the fence. I still haven't set the engine in yet. But once I set it in and transmission, I'll get a better, really good look at what's there and then make that decision. Because, I think 5 years down the road, if something were to fail, what do you have to do? And this is the same thing, like, when we race stock cars, there was always something we would look at stuff engineering wise. What do I need to do if this has to be swapped or changed or, whatever. And so you just kind of, I proactively think that way, and it pays off whenever something does fail, and it will eventually. You want to be able to take it out, replace it, or whatever you need to do. So I'm still working on that concept. Let's see. Gerhard, I'm trying to figure out which direction to go with my Mustang build. I would love to go in the same direction how you build Mustangs. Is that even possible with a jig like that boat trailer jig you use, or go a Dynacorn body? So far, I'm just planning and haven't purchased anything yet. Okay. The jig is beneficial. Now, it depends on what you're doing. Like, when I built the Brooklyn Pony, I didn't have a jig. I built it on a car dolly. and it was fine. It came out really, really nice. It was a body cart is what I built it on. I know we all get caught up, and the jig, like I said, I built the jig on purpose for me to be able to do what I'm doing. But if you're doing it in a home shop, you can fabricate something based on what you have. So like, you could set the car up on jack stands and build your own standoff jig system. Like, you have the bumper mounts. Those shouldn't be changed. They shouldn't go anywhere. They should be the same from every, frame to frame, frame rail to frame rail. So if you were to build a little triangle brace with a bar in it with two holes that was welded to the car or whatever, or welded, so make a triangle structure. So you would have that indicator, and you can do that based on where the car sits on the jack stands. So you do that, you got the pinch welds that defines your dimension there, and then you can take measurements, make sure everything's right, all those sorts of things. So don't get too caught up with the idea of that you have to have a jig. You can engineer it with small framework structures and get the same results. Now, as far as the body, I've said it before, I've heard issues with the bodies. I don't know if they've improved or not. I know of two where the guys bought the body and couldn't put it together. Like, the doors didn't fit. And they ended up taking panels back off and adjusting them to make it fit. So they had to undo what was done, put it back together, let's say the more correct way. Now, I don't know if it's still true or not. I know that I remember that. I've seen the car. I've actually seen these cars. So that's all I really can say about those. I can't guarantee they're built 100% right. But you can do it with simple jig systems. You don't need a high dollar, frame on the floor type of thing. You can actually do it if you can make it out of wood. As long as you have measurements and you're accurate in your way you're building it and you kind of reverse engineer the thing, you can do it. Good question. Where to go? So, Travis, Gerhard, lots of measuring, test fitting. The internal sheet metal doesn't have to be perfect measurements. As long as the outside fits good, you're good. And that is 100% true. I've talked about this before. Whenever I'm building something and I'm test fitting, ideally, yes, I would like to have everything match measurement-wise. But with aftermarket parts and variations in the stampings and whatever, you're not going to get that. So whenever I say test fit, test fit, test fit, it's about making sure overall that the exterior sheet metal looks correct. The inner stuff can be off, and it will be. But if you build it to try to match what the factory did, and then you start putting sheet metal on, you're like, well, wait a minute, these fenders don't line up, or this doesn't fit, or that doesn't fit. What I try to do is I assemble the car, put the outer sheet metal on, I adjust the inner pieces until they fit the outer sheet metal, and now I know it's going to look good at the end of it. And most of the time, it's only little tiny bit off here or there. Nothing, not a half inch or anything like that. Pretty minor stuff. Pat Addick, as far as welds go, I've seen what someone call a booger weld outlive a perfect looking weld. Yeah, I have too. Rick, sometimes you have to think about the next guy that's going to have to mess with, especially if the next guy is probably going to be you. And, and maybe part of my thinking of that is the fact that modern vehicles aren't built that way. I mean, they're not. They put something together and they hide the starter inside the engine block, or they put a drain plug directly into a cross member. Like, you're draining your oil and it's going to hit the cross member and go everywhere. Stuff like that. It drives me crazy. But you're right. You're absolutely right. Travis, Lost Socket Garage just bought a body and videoed 2 original 69s, and the Dynacorn body measurements were pretty good. Okay. Yeah, and like I said, they may have improved. I know the ones that I've seen were 68s, and they didn't. They weren't good. Gideon, I finally bought my dream car for Christmas, 1968 Fastback. Your channel has helped me understand this chassis much faster. Your work is amazing. Thank you for sharing your talents. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. I try to share whatever I have, whatever I can. Here we go. Gerhard, I've seen recent videos of Dynacorn bodies that were not good. In one case, they sent it back and got a replacement. And that's what I'm saying. There's like the 69s, maybe they got those zeroed out. I'm like, okay, we know what we have to do with this one. But other years and stuff, they are not as good as people think. And, they show you the picture. You see it in an advertisement. You're like, oh, look at that. It's perfect. Well, yeah, that one's perfect. But that's not the one you're getting. So you got to be careful with that. Okay. So what I wanted to talk about briefly was this engine sitting over here. And I posted about it on Facebook and stuff and Instagram. If you're not following me on Instagram, I encourage you to find me on Instagram. That is a Mexican 302 block that is the Mexican hypo version, let's say. So it has the thicker castings where the crank is. And, that other engine I had, the 67 engine, is no good. It's already been bored 40 over, and it has bad spots in the cylinder, rust in the cylinder. It's going to need a lot of work. So I really don't want to mess with that. However, this one, I brought it home. It was already disassembled. So it came with heads from a 66 Mustang, or Ford 66 heads. And my understanding is those are just standard heads, nothing special about them. The 67 block has 72 heads on it, which are, again, nothing special, standard issue type things. However, this engine, Roger and I popped one of the cylinders out, or pistons out, and we did a measurement on it, and it's still 4 inches. At least it appears that it is. I'm going to do some more measuring once I get all the other pistons out and, see exactly what's there. In fact, I went and I bought some generic snap gauges, the T gauges, and Roger and I were looking at it and measuring. And what's funny, just to show you this, so these are stainless steel T snap gauges, right? And all they do, if you haven't seen one of these, you push the plungers in, right? They're spring loaded, and Roger and I, he went over with me. When you put this in the cylinder, you actually make it a little bit tight, like angle it in the cylinder with gentle pressure on the tightening knob, and then rotate it into that circle so that it forces it to come into that zone instead of snapping it out and trying to tighten it up. So anyway, if you were to buy I don't know how you say it, Mitutoyo, whatever they are, set of these gauges, hundreds and hundreds of dollars to buy a pair, a set of these. This one here, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these, ranging from 5/16 up to 6 inches. So you have to guess what these cost. You have to guess what these cost off Amazon. And I'm not embarrassed about what I paid for them. I'm not. They do exactly what they're supposed to do. And if it was more like aircraft or like super industrial type of things, that you're going to use them every day and every day and every day, that would be a different story. But you have to guess at how much I paid for those snap gauges, T gauges. Let's see. Gerhard, I'm following Lost Socket Garage as well and saw the Dynacorn 2. Okay. Rick Stevenson, I like your version of high nickel content. Yeah. So I should have shared that up here. And maybe I will. Maybe I'll see if I can find that picture quick and mail it up so I can get it online. But they say the Mexican blocks are better, somewhat. Like there's all these rumors. They tell you, oh, it's got high nickel content. Well, does it or does it not? Is there a way to measure that? I don't know. Am I going to be able to, is it going to make any difference to me? Probably not. But that's the rumor, that they are, kind of better, let's say, than the standard blocks. And these blocks, these Mexican blocks, they were service replacement, from what I understand. So they were meant to replace an original engine from that era. And whether they actually, like I said, I don't know if they actually have nickel content or not, or high. It doesn't matter. But that's always been the rumor. So I'm going to download this picture because I have proof. I really have proof. This is the block. I'm going to pull down. Pull down Rick's comment and show you this high nickel block because it's fact. It's a fact right here. So there it is. That's the block, and that has high nickel content right there. It's obvious. There's no denying it. Nobody can say it doesn't. The proof is out there. You just have to find it. So there you go. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, high nickel content. Okay, Travis. I watch pretty much all Mustang YouTube videos. Barry is the best for showing stuff. So channels cut corners. Barry doesn't. I always recommend Barry over all others. Yes, thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff people won't show you. It looks easy. Sure it is. Pat Attic, in case you didn't already say it, those Mexican blocks are supposed to be thicker all over. I currently have one 40 over. Yep. Yeah, that's what I've heard too. So I've got some guesses on these snap gauges. Gideon says 45. Travis says 225. Richard Vogel, 49.99. All good guesses. $30 from Rick. And George Burns, $20. I've looked at them. That's pretty much it. I think it was $17 is what those cost. And it's really hard to 1901. Sorry, 1901 with tax. It's really hard to beat that. Be honest. $19 for those gauges. To me, it's a no-brainer. Buy the things. You really can't lose. So, all good guesses. Thank you, George. You're welcome. 427 Mustang. Check the bore in multiple spots about 1/2 inch from the top and near the bottom where the rings obviously contact. Yes, I'll be doing that. I have a, I don't know, I forget what the name of it is. I bought another gauge. Let's see if I can find to check that. So it's a bore gauge set. So it's one of those where it has rollers on the backside and a probe sticking out, and you can run it up and down, so you can watch the dial, see if it changes. But I will be doing that. I bought one of those, and also cheap. Um, that one was, well, I forget what it was. I say cheap. It was like, that one was $60, but it's a digital gauge. It's a digital reader, and so it's a nicer setup. So, but I will be checking those bores. I also have some hones. I have a ball hone. I have a 3-bladed, hone. And I really don't want to bore this engine over. I don't. I want to just, if I can clean it up. The only thing I have to, that may be a challenge, because I've never done this, is put in cam bearings. So I'm going to look into that a little more, and see what's going to be needed for that purpose. But I will be checking all that. Thank you. 427. Travis, I've got a 302 Mexican block. Yep. This is actually the second one that I have, because I have another one that came in that blue Mustang, but it's all apart, and I don't know really the history of it. This one I know was in a running vehicle, and they replaced it with something else. I mean, I don't have any doubt that it's solid. Like, there's no reason to think it's cracked or anything like that. So we're going to look at it a little further and see what I need to do. I'm going to come up with some pistons. And oh, that's the other thing. We checked the connecting rod bearings and took it apart, and the date on the bearing was 12 of 69. So this engine's probably never been apart, and that's a plus. So those said 12 of 69 on them. Now I still have to pull everything else out and look it over, but I forget what the date ends up being on the actual engine. I have it somewhere. Not that it really matters, but it's the bearings were from 69. So, and what I'm dealing with that is the bearings for the connecting rods are worn. Like, you could take the crank and wiggle it back and forth and hear it clunk, 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 because the bearings are shot on the rods. So the 67 block, because it's screwed up, and it was just rebuilt, and unfortunately set outside, and it was covered up and got water in it. But I've looked it over. The crank is perfect, and the bearings themselves are like not even used. It was almost like they put it together and they ran it and did a break-in on it, and that was probably it. Like, they driven the car a little bit, but the crank is perfect. So I'm going to use the crank out of the 67 and put it in that block, and I don't have to worry about getting a crank taken care of. Mr. Mikey said $12 American on the gauge set. Pretty close. 19. Michael Peglierini, 351 4-barrel heads or GT40 heads, a 3-bar for spark plug angle. High nickel is a GM thing. Back of block will say 10 or 20. Yeah, the GT40 heads, I've been looking at those. I may try to find a set of aluminum heads if I can find them cheap enough. But we'll see. I've got some other feelers going on. But yeah, the 3-bar, I've seen those. That's the GT40, and the 4-bar is a GT40P. So I've been researching this. But thank you, Michael. Pat Attic, I have 2 Mexican blocks. One came from a 76 Mustang 2, and the other from a 74 E150. Yep. Vincent, dial bore gauge. Yeah, that's basically, that's right. 427, look at the lifter bores too. I found engines with good cylinder bore and big lifter bores. That's a good point. Now, I'll say that I already know all the lifters are out of that, but I'll check them. But I have lifters I can put in and see how they feel too. It's a good idea. Thank you for that. George says, since machine shops have become non-existent or outrageously priced, I'm going to do a no machine shop rebuild on my 289. Lots of good info on YouTube about doing it that way. And that's basically what I'm doing. Now, there's a very subtle ridge at the top of the cylinders. And I don't want to just bash the pistons out past that little ridge. So I've ordered a ridge cutting tool, ridge reamer tool that you put in the cylinder and you rotate it, and it's supposed to cut just that little bit of a ridge off to help the pistons come out, and then it allows you to do the honing more efficiently. So I'm going to be experimenting with that too. I definitely don't want to bore this over. I don't want to get crazy with it, and I'm trying to do everything, like I said, as budget friendly as I can. So pieces from the Mexican block, crankshaft from the 67 block. I could, if I wanted to, use the 66 heads or the 72 heads, which are fully rebuilt. But I haven't gotten that far yet. I don't really want to use them at all. Robert says the GT40P are harder to get headers for. The GT40 and 40P heads are cheaper to get if you buy a complete Explorer engine. Personally, I just go aluminum aftermarket versus messing with finding those. Yeah, I've been looking online, and there's somebody locally selling a set of GT40 heads, but they want $800 for them. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to pay $800 for a used set of heads that need redone. No, you can get, aluminum set of heads for about $1,000. And I don't want to spend that either, but I'm going to see what I can come up with. But you're right. It would be beneficial to use aluminum. 427, please use aluminum heads. We used all the 351 and GT40P heads in the late 90s and early 2000s. They're not worth the money to rebuild. You can find great deals on aluminum heads now. Yeah, and that's really where I'm leaning towards. And we'll see what I come up with. This is not a priority. This is just casual here and there type of things, while I'm building the Fangled Fastback. I stumbled upon this engine. It was a great deal. So I was like, yeah, I'll get it. Set it aside. Slowly gather a few pieces and parts here and there and just put it together. Pat, cam bearings would not be a big problem for a guy like you. Attention to detail seems to be your thing. Oh, I'm sure it would. I mean, I know I could do it. I guess I need to figure out the tooling to do it. Because yeah, I'm pretty anal about stuff like that. But yeah, I just need to research what it is, the tooling required to put them in. I mean, I've probably seen it done. The other thing I want to do, like when I built my race engine, for the stock car and stuff, I did a lot of little extra things. The chamfering of drain ports out of the lifter valley, stuff like that, where it helps the oil get back down into the engine easier. I actually balanced the connecting rods, balanced the pistons, and it takes a little effort to make that happen. The problem I have right now is I don't have access to that equipment. The guy who I know who builds stuff like that, he has all that equipment. Now, what I'm probably going to end up doing, because I still want to balance everything. I want to make sure it's as close as I can get. What I'm thinking about doing is getting a little scale, like a little, grams or whatever, digital scale, and build a standoff to where I can put the wrist pin of the connecting rod, put it on that, and set the bulk, the fat end on that scale, so I can figure out what the weights are, you know. And then all you're really doing is grind off a little bit of material to get those set up. So I want to balance everything out. I know doing that on the stock car, holy cow, that thing would scream. That engine revved so fast and so hard that it was fun. Now, it takes a little bit of time, do those things, but that's fine. I'm not in a big hurry on that. Let's see. George says, please video your progress to help the rest of us. I trust your advice more than anyone else that I watch. Well, thank you, George. Appreciate that. 427, Barry says, cruiser, we say race car build. Well, this is going in the Falcon. And ideally, I kind of want the Falcon to be like a road course car if I can. Kind of. I want it to run. I want it to sound nasty. I want it to run. I'm going to run the pipes out the side, like the NASCAR looking exhaust, the oval pipes coming out the side. It's going to have those big tires on it or something close to it. This is a car. That's with Jade wheels on it. But it's probably going to have those tires and wheels on it when I'm done. So, and the end result will be something along these lines. But not that pretty. I don't want to paint it. I don't want to make it shiny. I don't want any of that. I want it to look like an old beat up race car. And I'll probably put 67 on the side of it because that was our race number. But yeah, I want it to be nasty. We'll find out. Rick, my vintage iron on YouTube Rick Gain has some great videos on engine building, including the 289. Okay, that's good to know. Dave Tyson, stock heads are not the end of the world. They're not. I agree. Rick Stevenson, don't forget we're all waiting awaiting the resurrection of the basket case Camaro. Stop reminding me. 427 pro tip while we're on the small block 4 topic. Do not put a high volume oil pump. Okay. Okay. Oh. So Rick Stevenson, he put a 302 with a high volume oil pump, had a problem exploding oil filters on cold start. Okay. I'll have to keep that. I'll just go with a stock oil pump then. Pat Attic, just for reference, the old 67 289 heads aren't any different from the hypo stuff port-wise. Difference was in the valve spring seats and the push rod holes. Stock heads can make good power. Okay. That's good to know. And I'll do some more research on it, but I appreciate that. That's good to know. Pat, I got my cam bearing tools from Jags. It was Proform, I think. Well, I'll have to look it up. I'll if you want to email me a link or something, if you have something on it, that'd be great. If not, that's okay. I'll find something on that. Richard, where do you buy your engine parts? Well, more than likely it'll be either Summit or Jags. Speedway Motors, I guess they're still around. That's where I got most of the Chevy stuff that I use in the stock car with Speedway Motors. But yeah, I try to stick with those. There are other brands out there. There's stuff on Amazon. There's variety of companies that sell these parts, and I probably end up with something from Summit or Jags or, like I said, Speedway Motors or something. I looked at one. They had a kit that you could buy it had all the gaskets. You could get pistons, rings, all new bearings, camshaft, oil pump, timing chain, a lot of things. But I was like, I don't need all that. Like the 67 motor has a nice brand new double roller, timing chain in it. The oil pumps are good. I already know that. Gasket set, yeah, but I don't need to get crazy with buying a big kit that I'm not going to use half of it. I was even looking, probably not getting at the 347 stroker kit, but I know you have to modify the engine for that to work. And again, that would be going to the machine shop, and I don't want to do that. 427 oil pump is driven from the distributor gear. Running lots of oil pressure loads up that gear. No reason to run a high volume pump on 90% of builds. Mods exist, but not worth it for 90% of the builds. Okay, that's good to know. Michael, too many problems with the Chinese aftermarket heads. You will need to send them to a machine shop to get rebuilt anyway. Possibly. I mean, I'm going to do some research and find something. Who knows? I don't know what I'm going to find. It might be some used ones that pop up. We'll find something. George, I watched some good videos importing stock cast iron heads with flow test afterwards. Stock heads can be quite good. Okay. Yeah, PAW, Performance Auto Warehouse. Forgot about them. Used to be a great company for engine parts. They went out of business years ago. Yep. Gerhard, the 302 block started production in Canada in Windsor, Ontario, hence the name. The Mexican block depends on the casting number. I have that number. And I know that somebody else was asking me about this previously. Yeah, the number on that is a C8AM -6015. So C8AM -6015. And I'm just, now you got me thinking about it. So I punch that in, and that says, well, what does it say here? It's a Mexican engine block, standard bore, and based on that, it says January 68, but I can't go by that because I know that the bearings are 69. So, like I said, I'll keep doing my little bit of research here and there and figure things out. TJ says, Barry, remember that Summit gives 10% to veterans like yourself and I. Oh, I guess I've never really taken advantage of that, but good to know. Thank you. Dave Tyson, call the engine spare change. That's a good one. Gerhard, 1980s and on the blocks were all the same. Okay. Well, all I know is that the bearings in the engine have a date code of 12 of 69. So I know it can't be any. You wouldn't expect this. I mean, granted, I talked to a buddy. He said they could have made a bunch of bearings that were put in the late 69, 70s, 1s, 2, whatever, because they do stamp them with that. But it does say 12 of 69. And then on the bottom of this picture, nope. It has a 27AO. 27AO with two little screws. Whatever that means. 27AO. I don't know. Rick says, with the cost of everything nowadays, they are no longer high nickel, more like high dollar. Yeah. Yeah. So, I'm not I know it's a good engine, good block. I don't need to get too worried about it. I think it's going to be fine. But I'm going to be, like I said, piecing things together, getting the parts that I need. And as I always do, every time I do any, kind of engine work, I take, and everybody should do this anyway. You run a tap through every single hole, make sure all the junk is out of them, make sure they're clean, smooth. You have to be proactive with all that because you're putting in bolts and torquing things, and if you don't clean all that stuff up, and there's something in there, you could mess it up. So there's a lot of little things that can be done, that should be done whenever you're putting one of these together. It's been quite a few years since I've built an engine, but I'll be honest, I've never built a Ford engine. I mean, I've worked on them. I've done plenty of work to them, but I've never built one. So, not that it's the same thing. Pat Attic, they have Hencho in Mexico cast right in the Lift Valley. Yes, they do. It does. It's got it right in Lift Valley. It also has the nubs up on the front, the casting nubs, only on the Mexican blocks. They had those little casting nubs, and it has the real thick main bearing caps. So yeah, it's a good little engine. I'm looking forward to getting it apart. I know that somebody was talking about numbers on the back, and just because we're going to take a second, I'm going to look on this and see if there's anything that I can see. And it's kind of, there's some letters stamped on there, but I think it just says 302 in white. So it's got white letters, and then on top of that is something in blue. I can't read it, but it's got, looks like 302 in white, and then like a blue painted on something on top of that. I don't know. K code or no. No. Dave Britton checking in. Welcome, Dave. Glad you're here. You're right at the end of it because I'm getting ready to shut things down here in just a minute. I've been going at it for an hour. And, we've talked about the several things going on. And as I mentioned, there may not be a video this week. I don't know yet. If I do anything, I have to have it ready to go by tomorrow because I'm leaving on Monday morning or Wednesday morning. So I don't know if I'm going to make any kind of video. I may post some shorts while I'm in San Diego. I could post those onto YouTube, just to, just let everybody know what's going on. But like I said, I'll be flying out there Wednesday morning and be back on Sunday, and I'm going to hang out with Ed on Saturday and check out a car show with him, and so that'll be fun. But otherwise, I think that's about it for tonight. It's been a good night of conversation. Had some good questions, good comments, and I appreciate everybody, giving me input on building this engine. I really do. Every little bit counts. I know that one thing I was looking at, and I mentioned this before, the weight of these engines. A Chevy small block, any Chevy small block is 575 pounds, and the Ford V8 Windsor is 460 pounds. So 125 pounds of difference, which is just remarkable to me. So, all right. So we're going to call it a night. I will be back next Monday at 7 o'clock. We'll do this again, and maybe I'll talk about the trip and, how things went at the tool show and all that sort of thing. So thank you all for being here, and until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.